0.
Hey, you.
Yes.
Yeah, you. Come here for a minute. I wanna talk to
Okay.
you.
What's the mama say? What's the mama say?
Mama says you're brain dead. Bang your head against the wall.
That's right.
Can't find peace of mind. Brain needs an overhaul. Bonehead, brain dead.
We're all the same.
You can't think straight
When your heart is in pain, turn around, hit the ground. Time to lay your burden down.
The views expressed on this broadcast of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show are those of the co-host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of our affiliates. The topics and opinions on today's show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice. Take 12 Radio is not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. And now, here's your host,
The man, the myth, the legend.
the Monty'man.
I'm telling you the truth, man. I
Ain't gonna lie to you. I wouldn't lie.
good guys, bad boys. We're all the same.
Saved by grace is the name of the game. Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay your burden down. Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, broadcasting from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting in the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon. Tony's here.
Morning, y'all.
Denver's here.
Good morning.
Marv is here.
Yes, I am.
And our special guest, Sharon S, is here.
Hello.
Hi, Sharon. So for those of you who don't know, a little history on Sharon and Take 12 Recovery Radio. We're in our 14th year, and back in the beginnings of this thing, Sharon was on the show and shared her experience, strength, and hope. And we had sat down and we were talking, and she was like, "Wow, I'm really glad you're doing this. Blah 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 blah. What's next?" I said, "Well, we've been invited to come down and cover an event down in Southern California called Freedom Fest, but we have no way to get down there because we broke." And Sharon said, "I'll get you down there," and she paid for the train ticket, and I rode 28 hours on this wonderful train. And I'm with Denver. Trains are great because you have all this room, and went down to Long Beach, California for the Freedom Festival, and that was our first mobile show, and that was because Sharon stepped up to the plate and helped us with that. So you really are a huge part of the beginnings of Take 12 Radio. So welcome to the show, Sharon.
Welcome, Monty.
So you need to bring the mic closer to you or scoot up to it more. There.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay.
That's better.
All right.
All right. So Sharon's going to be talking to us today. We're going to be talking about, the topic is the Red Road in Native American recovery and what that's all about. But before we get into that, I have to talk about Marv. You're going to appreciate this.
Okay.
Bald people, bald men,
What are we talking?
bald men. Yes. Here's some interesting facts. Bald men save time and money.
They do.
Yep.
Why?
This one's obvious.
No shampoo.
Well,
No haircuts.
you are actually correct. This one's obvious, but worth mentioning. Shampoo, conditioner, products, and trips to the barber add up for us hairy-headed dudes. The cosmetic industry brings in over $62.46 billion annually just from men.
Billion.
Yeah. So we save money. Bald men have a better metabolism.
What?
Yeah, high levels of testosterone, which are a large reason why many men experience male pattern baldness, boost metabolism, making it easier to maintain a healthy weight. Well, I don't know about that. And develop muscle. In other words, losing the hair on your head may help you lose that spare tire around your waist. I think this is a lie.
Denver, you go home and shave your head now.
Telling you. Sold me.
Bald men are perceived as more powerful than men with hair.
Really?
3 subsequent University of Pennsylvania studies found that bald men are constantly perceived as more dominant, powerful, influential, and authoritative than their furry-headed brethren. And one of these studies, bald men were thought to be an average of 1 inch taller.
Huh.
Interesting.
Taller than what?
Than men with hair.
Oh.
Why are you looking at me like that, Denver?
He takes these up somewhere late at night.
I do. Bald men are perceived as smarter, too. Yes. Another recent study discovered that bald and balding men were constantly rated as more intelligent, influential, knowledgeable, well-educated, of higher social status, and more honest and helpful. These traits are collectively known as social maturity. We're socially mature. Interestingly, bald men were also viewed as significantly less aggressive than their hairy counterparts. Yes.
What can I say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
What, Denver?
Charlie Manson was bald, I think. I'm not sure.
No, I think he's got lots of hair. And being bald may save your life.
What?
Yeah, check this out. All right, this may be a bit of a stretch. All right.
No, I know where
It's a lie already.
No, I know where this is going. A drill press is horrible if you got hair.
Well, there is a connection between balding and prostate cancer. It's also been pointed out that going bald can help ward off prostate cancer by increasing the amount of sun you're exposed to, and therefore encouraging the body to produce more vitamin D, which is known greatly to reduce the effects of prostate cancer. There's proof, too. Men who work outdoors have better odds against prostate cancer than those who spend the majority of time indoors. So if you're vitamin D deficient, a little bit of extra sunlight shining on your scalp could make all the difference down the line.
Amazing. I'm telling you, amazing. Need to learn something new every day.
That's right.
So all those bald men that wear hats, that don't count, right?
No, that doesn't count. We have another guest in the studio, too, and that's Sharon. Grandson?
Great-grandson.
Great-grandson. Oh, Sharon, you're not that old. You're just not. What is going on? My friends are having great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren and all that. So for Sharon, for being on the show today, we want to give you, you get 2 copies of the 12-Step Gazette. I want you to have that in this issue.
Awesome.
And there's 34 one-hour workshops by the most downloaded AA circuit speaker in the country, Chris S., walking through the Big Book series. This took a year for he and I to put this together, and this is an audio DVD. We want you to have that as well for being on the show today.
It's a DVD?
Yeah,
It's an audio DVD.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so you put it in your DVD player or your computer, and it's audio. So there's 34 one-hour audio workshops on unpacking the Big Book of AA. Yeah, so there you go. Which is also the prize in our soundbite contest, right? Mm-hmm. Our soundbite contest. So you heard the soundbite at the beginning of the show, and so I think. Let's see. It's time to play. That's right. That's soundbite. And here's the soundbite from today's show.
Well, we're moving on now. To the east side. To a deluxe apartment in the sky.
All right, that's all you get. Okay, so stop. Oh, nope, don't stop yet. All right, so here's the deal. Last week's winner of our soundbite contest was Barb Stinson from Prescott, Arizona. Who tuned into the show.
Way to go, Prescott.
We just got back from Prescott. And the theme song was Growing Pains. Yes. Growing Pains was last week's. This week's, we're not going to tell you what it is. You've got to guess it. And but we're going to give you a soundbite clue somewhere in the show. All right. Now, if you guess what TV show that soundbite came from, you're going to get a couple things. You're going to get Walking Through the Big Book, which is $25 value, 34 one-hour workshops, the most comprehensive word-by-word, line-by-line workshop on audio format to date. You're also going to get Basic Prayer and Simple Meditation by Mike D., a recovering alcoholic, talks about beginning spirituality. You're going to get the Recovery Music CD collection, and I'm adding again, right? Ray White's CD, Recovery CD, right? You're going to get that, too, from Ray/Conley White, his recovery CD. So you're going to get 2 CDs. What, Denver?
No moon pie.
No moon pie today.
Where's the moon pie?
No, we ate them all.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well, the box ain't back there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right there. It's time for Monty'man's Weekly Wine.
That's right. And for the weekly wine this week, Tony's going to start us out. Tony's got a wine. She's got something to whine about. Tony, what is it?
Okay, my weekly wine.
Well, tell us what you do for a living.
Oh, I work at the Golden Arches. I'm Queen of the Golden Arches.
Queen of the Golden Arches,
like
yes.
Monty calls me.
Yes.
And so we just had drive-thru open, and people like to bring their dogs through the drive-thru. Now, it doesn't care what size of dog it is. It's already hard enough. I'm sorry, Sharon, if you're one of them. Because you're looking at me really weird. So if you know your dog barks and barks a lot, whether it's a snippy bark or a bark, don't bring it through the drive-thru, please. It's hard enough to hear. Please leave the dogs at home if you go through the drive-thru.
And I'm suspecting this happens quite often.
All the time.
Really?
Oh, good Lord. More than not. I'm sorry.
sure
I felt
of it.
like I just offended you.
No,
Okay.
It's just running through my mind how many people have dogs and all their sizes.
Yes.
I'd kill something.
Oh, no, and it's hard not to tell them about themselves either. Like, really? It's a speaker system. Why bring your barking dog?
Do you guys give doggy treats to people with dogs?
No.
You don't? You're not like
We
the bank?
should, but no.
Yeah. Well, the bank takes your money and then they give you a bone.
I know.
That would promote it, yeah.
Well, I think that's a legitimate weekly wine. Don't you guys think so?
Yes.
Don't you think so? I do. Okay, here's another one.
You know what, Monty?
yeah, go ahead.
I'd be more concerned about people wanting to talk about their dogs. Oh, do you see my little puppy I got?
They do that, too.
Do they do that?
Yeah.
You're already irritated. I'm like, I don't care about your dog right now.
And by the way, can I just say that when you're in these new split line fast food drive-through things, what are you in such a big hurry for? I mean, you're trying to cut me off to get your biscuit? My God, you're in a line, you're stuck. You ain't going nowhere, baby.
And the dog's barking the whole way.
Just chill out, man. Take your turn. Right?
Oh, yeah, they get evil through there.
I know they do. I knew. All right, so here's I can't stand this one. I just hate it. What is up with self-serve checkout?
I love
Self-serve checkout?
I love that.
Yeah, but who is whatever they do to program these things. So I go to get the creamer for today. So I get 2 things of creamer, right? One of them scans. The other one won't scan. And I'm like, it's not scanning. And the lady goes, are you having a problem? And I go, it won't scan. And she goes, oh, well, let me try. And so she tries. She goes, you're right. It won't scan. We need assistance on register 3 self-checkout. 5 minutes I stood in the store.
Good God.
Now, why do you go to self-serve checkout? What's the reason?
To get through quickly.
To get through quickly, right? I could have been at line at Dollar Days at Kmart and gotten through faster.
So how was it resolved? I mean, what happened?
Oh,
that
some
you
manager came in and took their name tag and they scanned the thing and then they punched in a code and then they talked to it and then they punched in another code and finally my $4 creamer got paid for. I thought, why don't you just scan the first one twice?
I was about to say, why did they just...
Oh, we can't do that because this is a different flavor and it messes with their inventory. Okay. All right, and the last one I have, and this one I got to tell you, if you're guilty of this, shame on you. Stop flipping the rest of us off on social media.
Oh.
I am so sick and tired of pulling up Facebook or whatever, and you're flipping me off. Why are you flipping me off? I don't even know you. Well, they go, well, my one son says, well, they're not flipping you off. Yes, you are. You're flipping off anybody who sees your picture. And when you use little children to make these memes and they're flipping people off.
I'm not getting those.
Yeah, well, now you will. What is up with that?
I don't know.
Boy, you're really showing your maturity. And some of my listeners do this. You guys, pull the needle out of your head. Apply a step or something. Just quit flipping me off. And that does it for my weekly whine. Thank you, Tony, for your contribution. If you got something to whine about and you just got to get it off your chest, please email us here at take12radio@comcast.net. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give the soundbite clue now. Oh. Are you ready? The soundbite clue is Louise. Louise is the soundbite clue. So remember, if you want to win those prizes, you got to guess the TV show the soundbite's from and the soundbite clue. You got to tell us what it is, Louise, and mail it to take12radio@comcast.net. Be the first email, and you get to win. Just like Barbara Stinson from Prescott, Arizona. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's see here. We did that. And we're going to go to our first break, and we'll be back. Don't go away.
Turn around, hit the ground, time to lay a burden down.
Hey, you got something to say? Are you looking for the best and most affordable way to broadcast your podcast? Well, Podomatic makes reaching a massive audience simple with free podcasts, customizable embedded players, and promotional tools. It's home to the world's largest directory of independent podcasters, including DJs, talk shows, educational programs, and so much more. Best of all, a basic account is absolutely free, and no special skills are required to set up your show. To broadcast your podcast, visit www.podomatic.com. That's PODOMATIC.com. And let the world hear what you've got to say.
Oh, hey, bud.
Oh.
Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
It's a school night. With Gary and Todd?
Yeah?
Not sure about those two. I've been meaning to ask you. This is tougher than I thought. Is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No.
I hope not, because alcohol can lead you to say things and do things that you really wish you hadn't. Isn't this what you're supposed to say?
I know.
So if any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you.
Ryan.
Yeah?
So start the conversation even before they're teenagers.
Good idea.
For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Well, welcome back. Now that we got our whining out of the way and our baldness out of the way. Welcome back to the show. This week on the show, we have a very special guest. My dear friend Sharon S. is with us. And the topic this week is the Red Road and Native American recovery. So we're gonna be hearing about that. But before we talk specifically about that, Sharon, you weren't always this nice lady, right? There was stuff going on in your life at some point where you were maybe not behaving as well as you could?
Right. Yes. I got sober on January the 10th of 1986. And for probably, you were around, Monty, for probably about the first 5-6 years anyway that you knew me. Bail money was something to have on me. And, and I did, yeah. I was one of those that in early sobriety, if I sponsored you and you didn't show up to a meeting on time, I'd probably jack you up against the wall and let you know you were late. So, yeah. Long way since then. Yes.
Long way since then. Yeah, yeah. So, okay. So your heritage is.
I am part Indian.
Okay, and what Lakota? What?
Well, I have two different takes. So I'm doing a thing. I'm going to go down to Grants Pass this summer and get it all laid out.
Oh, good.
I've been told that I'm Sioux, and then I've also been told I'm Cherokee, and that comes from different family members. So, you know, I get bits and pieces. When my dad died, all of that information was not given to me. So I've been piecing things together over the years, and I found out that if I go to the Bureau of Indian Affairs, where my dad got his hunting and fishing rights, that they have all that information, and that was down in Canyonville. So I just need to go down there and spend some time. And he's saying hello and laughing at me.
And well, he should laugh. So it's a lot easier these days, right, to get this information than it was 20 years ago because of DNA and all that?
Well, not only just that, but if Bureau of Indian Affairs, if and most all nations and tribes, most of them, not all of them, but if you know your mother's name or grandmother's name, it goes by the women's side. That's one of the thing about. Yeah, the women were pretty prominent, and so that's where your lineage comes from. So you might have had someone on your dad's side that was. So your dad's mother, or your mother's mother, or.
Gotcha.
And then they'll split that out and let you know where the rest of that goes from. But most of it all goes from the woman's side.
So you have been you've been active in your 12-step fellowship for quite a while now. We're just using your last initial, so you are free to say whatever you want to say as far as your 12-step fellowship goes. And you've kind of embarked on something new, at least for around here. True?
True.
Okay, and this involves the Red Road.
Yes.
So tell us about what's going on.
Well, Red Road to Wellbriety is, I was probably about 12, 13 years sober, and I was having a real conflict. I sobered up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I've done NA. I've done those kind of things. And, and there was just some things that didn't seem to get better for me. And I tried working steps, and I tried to get people assumed, which is a bad thing in anything, that if I'd been sober for that long, that I would know what to do.
Sure.
So it's hard to get someone that wants to take you through steps or do that kind of stuff, and you can't work on anything that you haven't uncovered, discovered, and discarded.
Right. You betcha.
And people have a fallacy that if you get through the steps once or twice, you're all better. Fortunately, I had a sponsor when I got sober that told me that if I could get 33 and a half years sober, I'd break even. And
Right.
So I'm working on that, and I haven't broke even yet, but you know, he never lied to me about anything, so I'm hoping he's telling me the truth about this.
Right.
So, I was done with AA and 12-step programs, and it just didn't seem, things just didn't work. But I worked for a treatment facility.
Yeah.
And you know, you never get a day off, whether you think you get one off or not. But I wasn't going to answer the phone for them but I was waiting for my niece to call me so we could go do some stuff. The phone rang. I didn't look at caller ID. It's a treatment center, and I get stuck driving the druggy buggy to this convention.
Druggy buggy.
Well, to this convention on the Gulf Coast, and I've always been taught you sit at the front, you do all that, but I'm telling you, I'm done. I'm just done. This isn't working. I'm still crazy, and you know, some things, no matter what I do, it just isn't changing. And so,
because recovery is much more than just being
not
sober.
Drinking. Oh yeah.
Or, because if we're just talking about sobriety, there's a lot of people that get sober, whoop-de-doo, right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 And,
Amen.
And there is lifestyles that you've let out there that doesn't go away just because you don't drink.
Yeah, that's right.
You might not be doing the whole lifestyle, but you have reactions, attitudes, and behaviors that just come out of nowhere. It's like, I don't know where that came from, but okay.
Right, i.e. some of our sober living homes from coast to coast that have a no tolerance policy when it comes to substances, but everything else is going on. Right. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be an example of an individual's life too. So, so I get it.
So, recovery is, your head, your heart, and your gut all have to be lined up in the same direction.
Right.
And it's not just about if you're not drinking and you said, I'm sorry, I got drunk or I got loaded or I spent all of our money or whatever. It's about a lifestyle change. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that has to happen in your gut, not your head. Your head is out to kill you no matter how you look at it.
So what happened? Something you changed directions or something here, right?
So I went to this convention, and Don Quixotes, who is Mohican, full-blooded, and was the speaker there. Now I've burnt sage and cleansing and those that's my ceremonial stuff, and I'd been put down for that in all 12-step programs.
Really?
That it's a cult, that,
Well, a lot of 12-step programs are called cults, too. So, I mean, they really got to...
and
oh, my word.
And that's not spirituality, those kind of things. And so so when I got the people there to go to this convention, I made them sit in the front. And I went to the back of the room.
Yeah.
And thought, here we go. One more speaker and about how life has gotten wonderful and the world is great. And,
right.
And this man came out on stage and has a stick of sage this big, I swear it was.
Wow.
It was awesome. I could see it very clearly from the back of the room. And lit that and went to all four corners and the heavens and Mother Earth.
Ended up blessing in the room.
And waved the smoke out onto the whole audience and asked Creator that whoever is supposed to get this message, that it comes through. And at that moment in time, I'm thinking, if they paid this guy to come out here and talk and he's got a stick of sage, it's okay for me.
There you go.
So I moved up to the front of the room.
Oh, good for you. Yeah.
So it started there, and they had just finished up the Red Road. So Don Quixotes got sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, and like I say, he is full-blooded Indian, and did Alcoholics Anonymous. He still does Alcoholics Anonymous. He'll still come speak. He still does all that.
Right.
But there was some stuff missing for him.
Yeah, sure.
And so he took the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to the elders and said, okay, here, this has saved my life. It's keeping me from drinking, but I'm missing something. I'm just not whole, and what do I need to do? And so the elders put it in a circle for him and got him back to the spiritual aspect of Alcoholics Anonymous and to Red Road and to be an Indian. And that is, everything is connected. Everything's connected. And we learn and we grow from everything that's out there if we choose to do so. And that that it's a want. We've got a want to do this. We may need to get clean and sober or change a lifestyle. Yeah. Because it's affecting our lifestyle. But until we get it down here where we live, you know, and it becomes a want. And we need to uncover, discover, and discard stuff that's there. For me, I grew up in a household that we didn't talk about our Indian heritage.
Really?
Because, we've been the biggest genocide in the world has been with the Indians. It's not overseas. It's been with the Indians.
Right.
And we didn't get rights back to even do our ceremonies or speak in our native language or any of that stuff until in the 80s.
Wow.
And so
that recent.
Yes.
Oh my
and so they did that, but they did hold on to those, or the elders held on to those and taught that and started teaching that and passing that down. And so he showed him how we have ceremonies and that there's a process and that there's a way. And, because of all the trauma and the genocide of our culture, children were ripped out of their homes and taken to boarding schools, and their hair was cut, their clothes were taken away from them. They were made to wear shoes.
Yeah, you're going to conform, right? That kind of attitude,
right.
yeah.
And that being Indian isn't good, so they were shamed and guilted and badly abused in those homes, and then sent back to a reservation, and so drugs and alcohol became a saving grace, and they didn't learn. They lost the things of living in a love-based system, and it became a fear-based system, and the traditions and the importance of the interconnectedness and the teachings were taken away. So when you grow up in a household that is full of trauma, and that doesn't, one of the things about Red Road is it includes anybody that has been in any type of trauma. Wellbriety, if you say this works for you, it works for you. We don't exclude anyone. What we understand is that trauma changes our life. We don't learn how to do things good, right. So I just want to share a little bit of this because it's important stuff to me, and it really helps me understand why sometimes I keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Sure.
So, Sharon?
Yes.
Can I interject something that I think is important? One of the things that I found, I've been a little bit involved with this. One of the things I found with the Native Americans is their whole lifestyle in their tribes or clans everything is about spirituality.
Sure.
Everything.
Sure.
There's no politics. There's no separation of church and state. Their whole culture.
And that's actually the truth.
Is involved with spirituality. So this stuff she's talking about, when the white man started in their genocide deal, had no understanding whatsoever. They, in their mind, they were dealing with pagans. You know, when this all happened, and then the greed of wanting.
And who
to
was
take
the pagan,
land.
really, though?
And so
Yeah.
I just thought it was important.
The
people should know that their whole lifestyle, from birth to death, is spiritual.
And the thing about that is, even biblically, that's what the Bible is teaching, and yet we have, the Western civilization, a white
politics.
trying to take even biblical principles and humanizing, turning God into our agenda instead of following His. So the whole idea that everything is spiritual. When do we lose that? We really screwed it up. Because it is. When you think of simply sitting on the back porch. Little dance. When you think of sitting on the back porch and listening to a bird sing, Denver, you and I have talked about this, about just being quiet. Right?
It's beautiful.
It is absolutely. When did we lose it? When did we go crazy, Sharon? Well, we've been doing it a long time.
Okay, so my opinion of that is that y'all came over here crazy.
So we were already crazy.
And there you didn't when Europe or wherever
Sure.
got here, they did not understand that that everything we learn from everything.
Sure, we do.
You learn how to deal with your water systems, and you eat if you kill something, you're grateful that you have that food. You're grateful everything that animal is going to give you.
Sure.
Warmth, cooking, all of that. And they thought that we were pagans because
when you were simply
worshiping an animal. We weren't worshiping an animal. We were giving thanks to the animal.
You were giving thanks to the Creator for the animal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
things sure get mixed up.
So and we didn't own the land.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Some nations were stationary. Some weren't. Would go from, the mountains in the summertime and the valleys in the winter times.
Right.
And sure, some of them may have had some conflicts in between themselves, but as a whole, it was all about. We didn't own anything. We don't own anything. It's just our job to take care of it and to help and to learn from it and to grow from it.
We're stewards.
Yes.
We're not owners.
Right.
Right.
And so that was all taken away from us, stuffed on reservations and done all that until we couldn't speak our language or do any of those kinds of things.
Not even on your own reservation?
No. And
my gosh.
and there's a lot of fallacies out there, and I don't want to get into too much of what happened to us
Sure.
because
you're living in the solution now.
Right, right.
Which, by the way, and I have to say this in all fairness, there's lots of groups of people that don't want to live in the solution. They want to stay in the past.
Right.
And that doesn't do anybody any good.
No.
Right? You got to move forward.
And that's part of what this is about. You got to want this in order to do that.
Right.
And it's a pretty intense set of step work, and it Red Road takes you all the way through family and recovery and how to. I mean, it's a process. It is more. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous alludes to a lot of stuff, like our real problem is our dysfunctional relationships with family and friends. It's in the 12 and 12.
Our self-centeredness and all
right.
that. Yeah.
And so Red Road takes you
deeper
than what than Alcoholics Anonymous does.
And really, the founders intended the AA literature to be spiritual kindergarten. They never ever intended it to be the end all be all.
No, and that's real apparent when you read the Big Book, and then you go to the 12 and 12 that was written later.
Right.
It's more out there. So, with Red Road, there's certain things that children learn when we're born. We learn certain things. So, up to the first year of age, you learn trust.
Okay.
When you grow up in a dysfunctional household or you grow up with people who do not know how to hold you, love you, coddle you, those kind of things, you don't learn trust.
Gotcha.
So we miss that. And then autonomy, where we learn from 2 to 3, something like that, where we learn how to make our own choices and our own decisions. We're going to dress ourselves. No, I'm going to climb on this, whether you like it or not, those kind of things.
Right.
And then between 3 and 7 or 8, it's initiative, and that's where we learn boundaries and imagination and what's the difference. And then between 8 and 11, we learn accomplishments. That's where we learn, what we want to do, the things that we like, that we've done something well. We need approval and praise and encouragement with that. and then we become our own person. We start learning our own identity between 12 and 18. And unfortunately, when you grow up in a dysfunctional household and you haven't learned any of this other stuff,
Right.
The gangs and the other things that are out there.
Very appealing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have an identity. You have, you belong, you fit. You know, they're telling you good job and kind of substituting that stuff there that we didn't get.
And that is what some truly cultish groups do.
Right.
Ones that are cults that are unhealthy and end up tearing you down.
Right.
They do all the, oh, you're wonderful. We love you. We've just watched and continues to watch Leah Remini do the exposing Scientology.
I
and
love that show.
How they have come in and they just build you up, and then they rip you to shreds.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So if you don't have basic life skills, if you don't know family, if you don't know heritage, if you don't know the positive reinforcement,
if you haven't learned how to develop your own sense of who am I, why am I, and where am I going,
oh my gosh,
somebody's going to do that for
someone's
you.
going to be there. Someone's going to do it. Yeah.
And you're needy. You're needing that approval, that acceptance, that encouragement because you haven't gotten it. And then of course we don't learn intimacy and we don't learn how to be adults and those kind of things. So in Red Road and Wellbriety, it lets you know what you missed.
Right.
But you can go back and get that stuff.
It's not too late.
No, and you do that by I never learned about trust. And one of the things that when I got into Red Road, I realized that my first sponsor taught me trust. And he was always there. Every time the phone rang, he answered it. He never lied to me.
Right.
He never told me good job when it was a bad job. He was always honest, straightforward, and when I did things good, he let me know that. So I trusted this man with my life. He was helping me through something that, I'd been dipped, sprinkled, baptized, you name it, and I could never get sober and stay that way. And so I learned some of this stuff, but you can go back and gain this. When you go back and gain this, then you can learn the interconnectedness and change the things that aren't there and give freely.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say, we talk about you got to get clear-headed before you can start really applying spirituality and that kind of thing. I mean, you try to tell somebody about their spiritual condition on day one when they walk in the rooms and they're still detoxing and, all they want to do is the pain to stop.
Right.
That's all they want right now is the pain to stop or the court case to go away or stop. I don't want to hurt mom anymore or whatever it is. But even after that, there's a clear-headedness that has to come even after you're clear-headed, right?
Right.
And that's the way you look at things. You look at the world, your worldview, your view of people, of everything that is living, and things that we perceive that aren't living. True?
Right.
I mean, even my relationship with the dishes, for crying out loud. If I don't do the dishes,
they don't get done.
My self-esteem goes out the window because the place looks. I mean,
right.
it is all tied in, and I think in our attempt to keep it simple, we've kept each other sick.
Well, I think that that we misunderstand keep it simple.
I think we do too.
I don't think that any one recovery group out there doesn't intentionally do anything to hold you back.
Right, not intentionally.
That it is from lack of information and lack of investigation.
Right, there's that contempt prior to investigation thing we talk about a lot.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and I, one of the things about Red Road is that it talks about there has to be a great change in order for us to heal and grow, and getting us a healing forest. It talks about a healing forest, and that's the people in our lives that encourage us. Don't want to mold us into them,
right?
But wants us to become what creators created us to be.
Sure.
And we all have gifts and talents.
Yeah, Marv. Yeah.
We listened to Marv earlier. My gosh.
Yeah.
You know, we all have gifts and talents. And sometimes we don't know what those are.
Sure.
Because we're insecure.
I'll even take it farther than that.
Okay.
We may know what they are, but we don't believe it.
Or believe in ourselves.
It's impossible for us to believe it, that it's something worthwhile for everybody.
Well, look how hard it is to take a compliment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, people say, hey, wow, that was really done well. And we get all, it's almost that phony humility, that false humility that says, oh, no, it wasn't me. You know, I could have sworn I saw your lips moving. You know, if you're created in the image of the Creator, then you have attributes of God, don't you?
Yes.
You bet.
And we all have gifts and talents. And if we don't learn this stuff and brought up in those loving, nurturing environments, then we don't know that we're worthwhile people and that we're important and that our talents are good.
That's what I was going to say, that if we stay in our dysfunction, it's impossible to be able to expound, and we may not even know what they are at all.
Do you think this is You think this is because we tend not to go deeper? Because we get comfortable. We talked last week about where the two steps we lose most people at: step 4 and step 9. Step 4, because we're putting pen to paper and we're starting to reveal stuff to ourselves that's very uncomfortable, and people, they go, they put on the brakes, they don't want to go there. Step 9, because now we're working with people face to face and making amends, and now it's very personal, and so we get scared and we don't want to go there. And we get comfortable in our 12-step meeting circles, drinking bad coffee and talking about our day, and which is not the program of AA, by the way.
No.
That's the fellowship. It's not the program, and we get it confused. And we think we're doing a program when we're not, and we settle. Well, at least I'm going to meetings. At least I'm going to church. You know, I'm in church every time the doors are open, man. I'm spiritual. Are you? There's a huge difference. Do you think we get stagnant and we settle, Sharon, particularly in our 12-step fellowships, we settle, and that's why we never go any further, because we get comfy? Okay,
so y'all know I'm famous for sticking my foot in my mouth.
Oh, that's all right. I do that all the time here.
I do it all the time.
So what I honestly believe is that we get into a recovery program and we get complacent.
Yeah.
And we forget that this is a life or death disease. We forget that that our actions, attitudes, thoughts, and behaviors are affecting everybody that comes in contact with us. We become our own entity instead of a group and a part of. And we get judgmental and critical of other things. And so we don't feel like we got to keep working at becoming who we are. My first sponsor honestly told me, you know, if you can make it 33 and a half years, you'll break even.
Right.
So I don't know about some of y'all, but, you know, I didn't drink for 6 months and then got sober. I mean, you know, I lived a lot of lifestyles out there.
Sure. You bet.
And so I have to go back and look at that, and I have to do that. One of the things about Red Road and Wellbriety that is so awesome for me is that you start putting pen to paper at step 1.
Good deal.
And it's called mind mapping.
Yeah, Caroline Preston, who was on we did a whole thing on her. She had a workbook called Remembering Who We Are, and it was all about mind mapping.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with mind mapping, there's 2 parts to the first step.
Right.
And you mind map powerless and unmanageability. But you do that in all 9 areas of your life.
And that I saw on your pages you had mind mapping charts.
Yes,
Did you not? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And those 9 areas come out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
Our personal relationships, prey to misery, depression, all that. Those 9 areas are in the big book. And in everything that you do in Red Road, it will coincide with something out of the big book. It just expounds on it further.
Yeah.
So it's a complete thing. And then once you get the powerless and the unmanageability down, step 2 is about hope. Who do you want to be when you grow up? When you get done with this set of step works, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
Where would you like for this to go? What do you want to give to Creator?
Right.
And so then you do you mind map those 9 areas of your life and what it would look like if Creator was present and in your life. What would that unmanageability turn into? Who would you be when you grow up and get through that? And then you give that to Creator.
Right.
And you find a power greater than yourself that works for you. A lot of us get here with God. A lot of us came right out of church, still go to church, do that kind of stuff. And so when you get to the 3rd step, you say, well, I have a power greater than myself. But Red Road kind of asks you, do you trust that power greater than yourself?
I'm so glad you said that. Let me just really quickly here, not meaning to interrupt you, but let me just speak to my Christian brothers and sisters, particularly those of you in recovery. You get to the 3rd step, you say, well, Jesus is my higher power. I already did that. Did you? Is this something you just know in your head? Or is this something, do you have a relationship with this power? Or do you just have a religious
belief
action? Because I will tell you, I can name and claim all sorts of things, but unless it's actually a relationship with it, it ain't going nowhere. So I was that guy. Why? I don't have to do step 3. And my sponsor said, what's wrong with you? I go, nothing. I've already done that. And he goes, well, how'd that work out? He made me hit my knees over the Brownsville Bridge with a Bic lighter and it was burning my thumb, and we got serious. You see, there's got to be a relationship developed here. You just cannot leave this as, well, this is who I claim as God and I'm okay. Right?
Right.
And people get stuck there.
Well, and they have this illusion, and I know I'm one of those, that if I have a power greater than myself and I'm going to turn over all my recovery stuff to them, I should be rich, famous, and beautiful tomorrow morning and nothing worse is going to happen to me.
Because their view of what prosperity is thwarted.
Well, and my view of a power greater than myself. But
yeah.
And the other illusion is that, I can only trust my higher power or anyone else with what I'm willing to give them.
Ooh, good.
So, okay, I don't want to drink and use anymore.
Yeah.
And if I do this and this and ask you every morning and thank you every night, and you keep me clean and sober, that's what you have. You don't have my life.
Right. Right. You can have all this, but you can't have my relationship with Fred or Lisa, but you can have all this.
Or my job, or my kids.
Or my car, or my,
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to hold some stuff back.
Right.
Yeah.
And you do that by learning how to trust this Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize is that, I woke up one day and realized that I had like 5-6 years of sobriety stacked together all at the same time. He was doing pretty good with that. I realized that that he could do for me some things I couldn't do for myself.
Sure.
Keeping a journal, a gratitude list.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that go on in our life that we don't even see or think about, or we think is a real inconvenience.
Mm.
You know, like when you get up in the morning, you got everything ready to go. The car won't start. You get makeup in your eyes. You know, all of that stuff. And you're later and you're later and you're later. And
you perceive it as a bad day.
Right.
When it may be working in your favor.
And maybe you find out later that either the right person was going to step into your life at this time or something bad happened. I'm going to take a train to Washington this weekend. And I've got this mapped out, and I want to take this train because I want to get up there early, blah, 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 blah. And the other one is kind of undependable. It's coming a long ways, blah, blah, blah. So I get to the Portland airport, or to the Portland train station. There is no trains in the train station. None. You see, the train hit a car in Kelso, so then that end of the deal, northbound of Portland,
right,
wasn't running. There was something with the fires and stuff in California that kind of shut down those tracks down there. There was no trains in this train station.
Oh, my God.
But I had an opportunity to spend some time with a little lady in that train station.
That you wouldn't have had.
That I wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
That had just had some cancer removed from her face. And,
wow.
And she was there by herself. And I got to listen. I got to show up.
Yeah.
I got to be there. So
yeah.
It wasn't the inconvenience of the train.
Right.
You know, I got to be there.
Right.
And
right.
So it's those kind of things that we don't think about. And when we start looking at those things on a daily basis, we realize that more and more Creator does have our whole life.
Yeah.
And that was part of where I was at when I found Red Road. I really thought I was too broken for God to fix.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a process.
Yeah.
There is no magic wand in AA or NA or
That's right.
Celebrate Recovery, any of those things.
Any of them.
There is no magic wand. And you don't get sober for a certain period of time or do 3 sets of steps and all of a sudden
Wah.
Yeah. it doesn't happen.
Right.
And so this is a way of continually going through and giving my Creator more and more stuff and learning more and more about me and what my gifts and talents are.
So will you come back and share more at a later date?
Yeah, yes. Just get a hold of me, and
that'd be great.
And I want to put this little clause in here. I've never been through the classes to teach this, but I teach this from my heart. So
sure.
I don't want to offend any person out there, native or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is my own personal
mm-hmm.
relationship with
right.
Red Road and the honor of getting to be Don Quixote.
I love the terminology Wellbriety.
Yeah. Huh.
So we've kind of hijacked sobriety, you know. I mean, I'm sorry, but lots of people can put the plug in the jug.
Right.
Lots of people can't. We've grouped them all together as one. We say, well, you must be an alcoholic. How do you know? Even the worst of the worst can put down the bottle for a day. Yippee! But
the
it's
thing
deeper
about
than that.
Wellbriety covers the whole family. When they go into reservations and they teach this to the whole family, whether they've drank or not drank. We're all sick. We're all spiritually broken.
And that's missed a lot because people return from treatment, return from their meeting at night, back to the same environment they're in, and the rest of the environment is sick and they're not getting well.
Well, and those people at home that are not included and don't have these opportunities get resentments with us.
Yes,
and
they do.
And they don't like us getting well because they're not. And so they want to sabotage us.
Yeah.
So it goes back to familiarity, to what's familiar and what's there.
It does.
And Wellbriety includes the whole family.
Do you guys... Another thing, too, real quick, is not only is it include the whole family, but the whole community is involved.
Mm-hmm.
The whole community is involved.
Okay, so do you have meeting times or any of that? Are there gatherings here locally?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
Actually, I am doing at this moment in time. We are going through a set of DVDs and the step. We're already at step 1. So if anybody's wanting to come and join us, it would be, and those are on Wednesday nights. I do 2 separate groups because there's 2 separate roles.
Okay.
I do a group for the women at 5:30, and that runs till about 7 o'clock. And then around 7:15, 7:30, I do a group with the men.
And where's this at?
It is at the Chance Building, the 3rd and Montgomery. And we meet on the side, the Montgomery entrance at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
And but we're at step 1. You can get caught up if you want to come and join us. Would love to have you. I have workbooks available and books and those kind of things. And so,
awesome.
It's fun.
Sharon, I want you to come back because I want to talk more about this. I have something for you though, and for everybody that's listening to close this show out. When this is done, we'll come back and we'll close out and say goodbye for today. But this is simply entitled "To Walk the Red Road." Long road winding began in the stars, spilled into the mountain tops, was carried in the snow, to the streams, to the rivers, to the ocean. It covers Canada, Alaska, America, Mexico, to Guatemala, and keeps winding around the indigenous. The Red Road is a circle of people standing hand in hand. People in this world, people between people in the spirit world, star people, animal people, stone people, river people, tree people, the sacred hoop. To walk the Red Road is to know sacrifice, suffering. It is to understand humility. It is the ability to stand naked before God in all things, for your wrongdoings, for your lack of strength, for your uncompassionate way, for your arrogance. Because to walk the Red Road, you always know you can do better. And you know when you do good things, it is through the Creator, and you are grateful. To walk the Red Road is to know you stand on equal ground with all living things. It is to know that because you were born human, it gives you superiority over nothing. It is to know that every creation carries a spirit, and the river knows more than you do. The mountains know more than you do. The stone people know more than you do. The trees know more than you do. The wind is wiser than you are, and animal people carry wisdom. You can learn from every one of them because they have something you don't. They are void of evil thoughts. They wish vengeance on no one. They seek justice. To walk the Red Road, you have God-given rights. You have the right to pray. You have the right to dance. You have the right to think. You have the right to protect. You have the right to know mother. You have the right to dream. You have the right to vision. You have the right to teach. You have the right to learn. You have a right to grieve. And you have a right to happiness. You have the right to fix the wrongs. You have the right to truth. You have a right to the spirit world. To walk the Red Road is to know your ancestors, to call to them for assistance. It is to know that there is good medicine and there is bad medicine. It is to know that evil exists, but is cowardly as it is often in disguise. It is to know there are evil spirits who are in constant watch for a way to gain strength for themselves at the expense of you. To walk the red road, you have less fear of being wrong, because you know that life is a journey, a continuous cycle, a sacred hoop. Mistakes will be made, and mistakes can be corrected if you will be humble. For if you cannot be humble, you will never know when you have made a mistake. If you walk the red road, you know that every sorrow leads to a better understanding. Every horror cannot be explained, but can offer growth. To walk the red road is to look for beauty in all things. To walk the red road is to know you will one day cross to the spirit world, and you will not be afraid.
Wow. I like that.
That was awesome, Monty.
That was awesome.
I got to say, this one statement that just screamed at me, pay attention. Mistakes will be made and mistakes can be corrected if you will be humble. For if you cannot be humble, you will never know when you have made a mistake.
That's right. So I owe you an apology.
Why?
Because when Barb came to me and asked me if I would be willing to come do this, I said, you know, Monty is really set, and he has a lot of religion. and he's kind of critical about things like that. I remember when the first time that I came and talked for you, and I would say creator, and you were real worried about if it was Christ or God or who it was. And so your growth is tremendous, Monty.
Oh.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, I like to think that I've gone from a religious circle, if you will, to a relationship. Again, it is so
And
it's
spiritual.
Spiritual.
You've
It's so
become
vitally
spiritual.
It's so vitally important to have that. Otherwise, you're just
Right.
going through motions.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and I just want to reiterate that it is so important that that we understand what unity is, particularly within the recovery community, because we can get so ununified because you don't look a certain way, you don't make coffee a certain way, you don't worship a certain way, you don't do this and do that exactly the way I often tell people, I think if we're going to talk about who's going to be in heaven, I think we're going to be surprised who isn't and who is. I mean, you know, just kind of tongue in cheek. I mean, we have these grandiose ideas, right, that are actually very limited. And until we become willing to be willing, not just not drinking, then we're going to stay closed-minded and we're going to be sober. And like I said, whoop-de-doo. Yip, hip, hooray, I didn't drink today. Well, that's nice. I want to go deeper than that.
I think everybody has a need deep down inside of them. It's kind of like deep down inside every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God.
Right.
And I think most of us have that need and that desire to change, grow, and be. Mm-hmm. And that's the main thing about a healing forest in Red Road. Yeah. Is that you have to have people encourage you that point out the goods, and when you're willing and want to do something different about the stuff that's not working, they don't judge you about that. They just say, "Hey, okay, here's a way of doing this. I'll help you. If it works for you, great. If not, let me help you find something else."
Yeah, there you go.
We don't have the market on anything. None of us do.
So Wednesday night, the women meet at 5:30 to approximately 7. The men meet approximately 7:15, 7:30 at the Chance Building in Albany, Oregon. There's a link to Chance on our Facebook page. You can check that out. Sharon, thank you again.
And for your listeners that are out there, they can go to whitebison.com, or it may just be a Wellbriety page too. And there may be something in their area.
Okay.
All over everywhere, but they can get to it through. And if they want to know anything about Don Quixote, they can go to YouTube.
Right.
And look up Don Quixote, and he has talks and all kinds of different things on there. He's the one that took this to the elders and got us all started.
Denver, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Sharon, and I took notes, and here was my key one. I got to listen. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much. And Marv, thank you for telling us about Sharon. That she was
really
doing.
Glad
I mean, I knew she was back, but I didn't know she was doing this, and so I'm just so glad. And thanks for coming in. And again, we go back a long ways. We've been friends for a very long time. All right, my friends, listen, don't forget the Soundbite contest. Take12radio at Comcast.net is the email address. Guess the Soundbite, and you get to win goodies. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man, along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family. We're wishing God's perfect serenity for you. Bye-bye now, my friends.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
'Cause she's a super cat, she's super kitty, meow.
Yeah, kitty, 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 meow.